You know those scary black box warnings you usually see on heavy-duty prescription drugs? The ones that basically say, pay attention, this stuff could actually kill you? Well, in 2026, those labels are moving out of the pharmacy and into your grocery cart.
You serious?
I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. Got no filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got no filter.
So Lillie Kane has done a video, and it's all about mainly the Texas regulations that are changing just in that state about labels that they're going to require on certain processed foods. It goes back to the whole GRAS system. And if you've not heard me gripe about the GRAS system, well, you must not know me very well, because I gripe about it a lot. GRAS is generally recognized as safe, or as I refer to it, generally recognized as sick. This is the FDA's system for making sure that food ingredients are safe. So it's not a very robust system. It's essentially the food companies going, we're going to put this new ingredient in something, and we swear, no, it's good. It's safe. We looked at it. It's all good. Pretty much that's the gist of it. And that's the reason that we're putting all these things in our mouth that are not food. And we should not be putting these things in our mouth because it is not healthy. So she's covering these Texas changes, and the way that she actually refers to a lot of these labels, she compares it to the pharmaceutical industry's black box warning on pharmaceuticals. And I thought that was rather witty, and I like the way that she puts this. So let's take a look at her video.
You know those scary black box warnings you usually see on heavy-duty prescription drugs? The ones that basically say, pay attention, this stuff could actually kill you? Well, in 2026, those labels are moving out of the pharmacy and into your grocery cart. And once you see what's behind this change, you're never going to look at a box of crackers or a healthy granola bar the same way.
Granola bars have never been healthy. I think everybody knows that now. Well, not everybody, but I mean, all carnivores know that. They've known that for a really long time. Those things are full of garbage, like garbage.
If you're new here, my name is Lillie. I'm a certified nutrition health coach, and y'all, we are in the middle of like a total health revolution. It is changing so quickly, I'm having a hard time keeping up over here. But today we are going to cover the 3 massive changes happening right now in the food world. 1, the not recommended for human consumption label, a new labeling law that is...
That's really funny. Like, look at this. Okay. Warning, this product contains an ingredient that is not recommended for human consumption by the appropriate authority in Australia, Canada, the European Union, or the United Kingdom. That is hilarious, because I just did a video on all of the actual ingredients that the United States just allow anybody to make food out of. And a lot of other countries have banned these items, you know? So it's kind of funny that this came up around the same time, I guess. And I'm not sure when the actual regulation was launched, you know? So let's listen and see what she's got to say.
Honestly making me laugh. I think it's hilarious. But for big food companies, they are furious. They're literally trying to sue to stop it.
I'll bet.
Secondly, we'll cover the global magnifying glass, why Canada and the US are putting little magnifying glass.
Oh, looky there. Oh my goodness. It's got a little magnifying glass and it says high in sugars. Let's keep listening.
For food. And lastly, we'll cover the secret cleanup and lawsuits. How big food is fighting to keep you in the dark. Meanwhile, changing their product recipes. So whether you're a label reader or someone who just wants to be able to buy their food without needing a chemistry degree, well, these 3 changes affect everyone walking into the grocery store today. And my goal is to help keep you guys informed with all of the changes in our food supply and how to live your healthiest lives. And if you appreciate this kind of content, then don't be silly, subscribe to Lillie, and let's jump in. The first big change is the not recommended for human consumption label. In 2025, Governor Abbott signed Senate Bill 25, the Make Texas Healthy Again Act. Now, if you don't live in Texas, you might be thinking, okay, so what does Texas have to do with me? I live in Missouri, or someone lives in California. But the thing is, this law is changing how Big Food labels their food. And a big food corporation doesn't want to have to change just the way a box and a label is for Texas.
They can't even do that. Like, so if a state actually changes their regulations, food companies can't really do that. They can't make packaging that's especially for a particular place. That would cost a lot of money. Plus the distribution, shelf life, they would have to control certain products like, in regards to shelf life, how long something stable for a particular area of the country. That would be very problematic to do, very costly to do. So that's the reason that this is is something that's going to trigger a widespread requirements,
And then make their boxes all different for other parts of the country instead, because Texas has such a massive market. Whatever Texas ends up doing, the rest of the country ends up getting the benefits, eh? Thank you, Texas.
Texas could change the way Americans eat snack foods nationwide, requiring a warning label on many popular food and drinks, reading "not recommended for human consumption."
That could impact candies like Skittles and M&Ms, chips, including Doritos and Ruffles, and drinks like Gatorade.
And what's funny is if you look back at that terminology, it's been used before, and historically, it was used on prison food. I don't know if you know that, but you would see "not for human consumption" on prison food. And there's a history to that. So "not for human consumption's been used before. That's not new. It's not you would expect to see it on something like a can of gasoline, "don't eat this," Like you look at the silica gel packets, the desiccants that come in a lot of things, and it always says "do not eat." That's what it kind of makes you feel like when you're listening to this. It's kind of funny.
And Mountain Dew.
It's targeting products using ingredients like bleached flour, food dyes, sweeteners, oils, and preservatives.
Yeah, and especially brominated things, that's also terrible. So bleached flour is typically brominated. It's disgusting. It's really bad for you.
Those are legal and common in many processed foods in the U.S., but some have faced regulation in other countries.
I believe that the rest of the nation will look to Texas and say, they're onto something. And just maybe we can curb the trend of us spending more on healthcare than any other nation in the world.
This law targets 44 specific chemical additives like red 40, yellow.
Good Lord. Take a look at this. This is disgusting. I mean, this list does not look like a list of food ingredients. If I didn't know any better and I just saw this list without any kind of header on it, I would swear that I had accidentally brought home the inventory from our chemical lab at work. Seriously, this is gross.
5 and titanium dioxide. This law requires a warning label that says, "Warning, this product contains an ingredient that is not recommended for human consumption by authorities in Australia, Canada, the EU, or the UK." I don't know why I find that so funny. Honestly, I guess it's supposed to be really sad that they would be incorporating ingredients in their products that are naughty. But, I think at this point I gotta just find the humor in it.
Most food dyes are made with synthetic petroleum-based chemicals. They have no nutritional value and are only used to enhance the colors of food. Kellogg's cereals, including Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks, contain yellow 6, yellow 5, red 40, and blue 1.
And if you look at similar products like cereals like this in, say, Canada or some other of these places, they're really boring looking, where here, I mean, honestly, this does nothing for the flavor. You're literally using things that make the food so much worse. It's already bad enough, but you're adding all these dyes to just make it colorful. I mean, good Lord. That reminds me of back in the day, I think Coke made a clear soda, like a clear version of Coke, and I think it was Coke Clear or Pepsi Clear. I can't remember which one did it, But one of them made a clear version of Coke and nobody would drink it because it wasn't the right color. That's crazy. But it makes a big difference on what they're selling.
According to the Cleveland Clinic, Red 40 can lead to hyperactivity, including ADHD, behavioral challenges like irritability and depression, skin irritation, and
not to mention all of these cereals, they have to fortify them because they're basically like, the nutritional equivalent to cardboard dust or something. So they have to fortify them with vitamins and minerals or whatever. But then they add the dyes in there to make it even more horrible than it already is. It's like a terrible thing, and then they just make it worse.
migraines. The other dyes have been shown to have negative side effects.
If you really think about it, the wording is so particular. It's not like they're saying you have to put a label that says contains artificial food dyes or a label that says...
Yeah, that's the way regulations work. So when they ran this through, it's legal language. So it's kind of like the whole, I don't know if you're up on the whole antibiotic free stuff. It'll say, antibiotic free for some chicken or something like that. Well, usually, and it depends on the locale and the regulations you're talking about, whether you're talking about federal versus state and all this kind of stuff. But in a lot of cases, what that means is antibiotic free, actually, for 6 months right before they're slaughtered, or either the first 6 months of life or some crap like that. Some kind of combination where this little window of time, they were antibiotic free, not antibiotic free for the whole time. So it's what's not there that actually, ends up being the trick, right? Or meat packaging. So when you see something is a product of the USA and it's meat, what that means is it could have been from the USA, or it could have just been packaged or repackaged, right? So doesn't mean that the cows originated from the United States. Could be from other places. So again, trickery.
May I have your attention, please?
So you have to go back to the regulations to see what it actually states has to be done or has to be said and all this kind of stuff. Because the label is there to get you to buy the product. And there's a lot of marketing that goes into that. There's a lot of trickery. So
says low in nutritional value. Instead, it's literally a label that says not recommended for human consumption. This is what we're calling it, the black box of the grocery store. Traditionally, the black box warning was reserved for the most dangerous prescription drugs on the market. But now that same level of seriousness is hitting the food aisles. And sometimes I do wonder if by adding new labels to packages, if it's actually going to change how people shop and what they consume. Are people really going to stop buying things like Fruity Pebbles? I can't help but think that if a mom is reaching for some fruit snacks for her kids and sees this warning label of not recommended for human consumption, I do think it's going to be a psychological game changer. I know for myself, back when I used to eat more foods that were ultra processed and I was struggling with weight gain, acne, and irregular menstrual cycle, I was eating foods with these 44 ingredients every single day because I thought that if a food was on the shelf, then it was safe. But this law is now putting the truth front and center. You can't.
Yeah, so that is what people believe in the GRAS system, the FDA GRAS system, generally recognized as safe, which is allowing these food manufacturers to just go, oh, no, we tested it, it's safe. Sure, it's safe. No, promise. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that is why you end up with so many ingredients. They're not even 100% sure how many ingredients there are. So, and all of this stuff is proprietary formulas and whatnot, and, you can't get into it. So it is very, very creepy, and it's about time that we started to combat this. And at the same time, this is a good way to approach it. So with these little disclaimers and these little play on words, the not for human consumption and the, hey, this is high in sugar, the negative feelings that this is going to generate. And like she's saying, the mom is not going to be able to live with herself, like grabbing it and just feeding it to her kids. She's going to be like, oh crap, wait a minute. I mean, she's talking about feeding her kids. And it's ingenious the way it's being done, because use shame for this. That's good. Shame. That'll get a lot done.
The shame! The shame! The shame!
Where you don't have this authoritarian bent kind of thing going on, where all of a sudden everything's banned and you can't eat what it is that you want to eat, because you should be able to eat what you want to eat, but you should be told if you're eating all these things that are detrimental to your health. You need to be aware of it, and it needs to be labeled properly. That's a good place to start, I think.
Miss it. And so I really do hope that these black boxes are going to start changing how people shop and what we consume. That brings us to our second topic, the global magnifying glass front of package movement. As of January 1st, 2026, Canada has now officially flipped what's going on. And now if a food is high in sugar, saturated fat, or sodium, it now has to carry a little magnifying glass on the front.
Cereals, drinks, and other prepackaged foods in Canada's grocery stores will soon have the symbol of this black and white magnifying glass. It signals customers about foods that are high in fat, high in sugar, or high in salt. Food companies have until January 1st to apply the front label. It's an addition to the nutritional value table that's much easier to read.
It's simple, it's visual, and it interprets the data for you. And even though this is happening in Canada, at this point, the MAHA movement and RFK Jr. are finalizing this similar kind of label here in the US. If a food is high in sugar or sodium, it will get a symbol on the front of the package as well.
And the thing with the sodium is the least of the problem there. It's basically the Franken ingredients, or the Franken foods that are not even food and you shouldn't be putting in your mouth. The stuff on that list is much more concerning than the whole sodium thing. So, but I mean, it's a start. The sugar, just highlighting the sugar. Because for years and years and years, ever since Ansel Keys gave sugar a pass way back in the day and demonized cholesterol, I mean, sugar's been like worshipped and eaten like crazy. So I think this is a very good start to actually try to make people more aware and get them to make better choices. There's going to be a lot of people who just cannot give up their junk food and cannot give up their addiction, but there's a lot of people who actually will put that crap down when they see those labels. I think, personally, I think it'll be fairly effective.
We are finally treating ultra-processed foods with the same caution that we give to pharmaceuticals. Let's move into the secret cleanup and lawsuits. Unsurprisingly, Big Food is losing its literal mind. They are doing two things. First, they are suing. They've filed massive federal lawsuits claiming that by telling you an ingredient is not for human consumption, that's a violation of their free speech.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
They're literally fighting for the right to keep you in the dark. Big Food's argument here is basically, we have the right to put chemicals in your foods without you feeling scared about it.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no.
Wow. I mean, that takes some cojones to actually say something like that, to be clear. The whole free speech thing. Because this is an ingredient label, and you're putting it in somebody's pie hole, and you're saying, we don't have to tell you what's in it. And there's a lot of that already with the whole proprietary formulation thing, where they're already not reporting everything that's in food, technically, because it has to do with the amount and the way that you say things. If it's giving away a formulation, I mean, there's so many little loopholes with that where they have to, oh, no, it's proprietary. When that's a way for them to kind of skirt around some of these regulations. So it's already shady enough, but now they're saying it's their free speech. Like, no, no.
The MAHA movement, led by RFK Jr. and HHS Secretary Marty Makary, they're saying that the scare is actually just the truth. For decades, these companies put the artificial food dyes and other funky chemicals they're adding to their products in tiny font on the back of their packages. And now the truth is being dragged to the front. And so the second thing that big food companies are doing is they're changing their recipes. Have you noticed lately some of your favorite snacks having the label new recipe or even now made without artificial food dyes?
Introducing Simply Naked. PepsiCo removing the artificial dyes from Cheetos and Doritos, making them totally colorless. The idea here from the company is that they are reinventing some of its most iconic snacks, Doritos and Cheetos, 2 types each, and they're basically removing some of those artificial dyes and flavors.
Yeah, that's not because these companies care about your health all of a sudden. It's regulatory avoidance.
Yeah, so they're trying to get anything on this list out of their formulations, and they're going to be doing replacements. That's the problem, is that if they are responsible for proving something safe, they'll just pick a different one. Okay, so this could lead to more problems if they don't do something about the regulations, right? Because they just were given like carte blanche, just do whatever the hell they want. So it's going to be difficult because they're going to substitute some of these things. So if you have something that's like an emulsifier or whatever, they'll just pick a different one. And it might end up being scarier than whatever you had on the list. You know, I'm not saying not to do anything, but, you know, I don't know. I just don't trust these people because the food chemists are, you know, mixing up their little witch's brew of different formulations to try to hit that bliss point. That's their goal, is to hit the bliss point. Now, the dyes are probably the easiest things to remove. You can put a healthy spin on the package, marketing from a marketing perspective. You don't necessarily need that neon orange chip to sell it. You need to kind of do something about like, hey, healthier and no more dyes and blah, blah, blah. And now that it's in the zeitgeist, it's like you can push that and be successful with it. And plus, it would cost them less money if they're taking out ingredients. So I don't know. The dye thing seemed kind of dumb to keep doing once we knew enough about dyes. You know, California had banned a lot of the dyes, you know, previously. So It just seems stupid to keep dyeing stuff and making it colorful because, I don't know, those days are kind of behind us where we look at Fruit Loops and because it's bright and neon colored, like we want to put it in our mouth. I think a lot of people go the opposite way. If you have something that's that artificial looking, we don't really, you know, for the most part, a lot of people just don't want to be putting things in their mouth that look like that anymore because we've kind of evolved past, I don't know, 1970s where we're all sitting there watching Saturday cartoons, you know, cramming a bunch of Cheerios down our pie hole. So I don't know. I'd like to think that we've evolved some, but you know, it'll be interesting to see how they deal with this.
These companies are slowly removing these 44 ingredients from their recipes so that way they don't have to put that scary black box warning label on the front of their package. So in a weird way, it's kind of like those black box labels are already working without being fully implemented.
Kellogg's will stop using the
That's the power of regulation, and regulations make the world go round. So when the regulations are initiated, even when there's proposals, there doesn't even have to be a regulation that passes. If there's a threat of a regulation, it can cause massive changes on the ground. So just keep that in mind. A lot of people, you know, they don't look at regulations because, my God, that's some dry reading. I mean, if you ever have serious insomnia, just, I don't know, pull out the Code of Federal Regulations and start reading it. I mean, a lot of times it puts me to sleep at work. But anyway, that's my job. So
food colorings by 2027. The company told Straight Hour News, "We see the growing focus on health as an opportunity to meet consumer needs in even more meaningful ways."
Kellogg.
Companies.
Sure you do. Sure you do. We know you love us, Kellogg, and you only have our best interest at heart.
including Kraft Heinz, Hershey, Tyson's, and others, have made verbal commitments.
Now, again, not necessarily because Big Food suddenly cares about your health, but either way, it's working and I'll take it as a win. A lot of people don't know that Goldfish crackers are 68 years old. Cool Whip is 60 years old. Doritos chips are 62 years old. The majority of foods in the grocery store now that people think of as normal didn't even exist for our grandparents. And
nowadays, for health conscious people or people that are trying to be healthier, they have enough common sense to know, well, that doesn't look like anything that you should put in your mouth, kind of thing. Just in general, like a feeling of it being wrong, right? So I think that there's that push. So I think it'll be easier for these companies to do all of this than you might think. I don't think it's going to be that difficult, really, because a lot of the dyes in particular. Now, the other stuff, what you're going to have is when they actually start replacing emulsifiers and binders and all of these things that they put in food to achieve a certain mouthfeel or, to get that bliss point, that's going to be more problematic. And then what are you going to actually replace it with, So
for the past 70 years, we've been told that these foods, they're totally fine. And now we're finally having some labeling on the package that is telling the truth. 2026 is the year where the food industry finally has to show their cards. Now, whether the FDA actually makes these laws mandatory across the country or whether the big food industries win their lawsuits, it really doesn't matter at this point because the cat is out of the bag. And
yeah, that's true. And a lot of times you'll see FDA will make, what they'll do is recommendations. Okay. And then a lot of times that scares a lot of companies into action. They'll start to take steps and then it'll become like finalized and it will become an actual regulation that's enforced, but they'll give them like years to meet the regulations or to become compliant. So a lot of times all of this can drag out like significantly. So I'm hoping that the Department of Health and Human Services kind of puts a boot up the FDA's butt to actually make a lot of this happen quicker, because you can fix a lot of this. I mean, we do not need the amount of options for disgusting food choices that are making everybody sick. We don't need that many, and even if you limit the amount of variety, that's not a bad thing. If that's what it ends up doing, because there's just products that you can't really make. I mean, if you make more of things that are actually not as harmful, I see that as a good thing. I mean, I know economically there's going to be an impact, and I mean, God only knows. This stuff has ripple effects. Just keep in mind, food prices, things like that. If you like these kind of foods or you eat the standard American diet, I mean, there's a bunch of ripple effects, okay? Ingredients that you're using or that you need to use, sourcing those ingredients, where you're getting them from. You have to actually audit where these things are coming from. You have to verify that, wherever you're getting them is safe. You've got purity concerns. There's just a lot when you're changing all of this stuff. So there is time needed to kind of get the change underway, but at the same time, you don't want it to drag on for like 10 years. Because in California, when they made those changes, I believe it was in California, and they kept saying, well, you have, this long, but then they extended it and extended it and extended it to try to get rid of some of the dyes. And it just seemed like it was never going to end. So, I mean, that can happen too.
People are now starting to ask, wait, what is this in my food? The black box movement isn't about the government telling you what to eat. It's about restoring the choice that was taken away from us for 70 years. But you know what doesn't get a black box warning label? The ribeye steak, the pasture-raised eggs, the blueberries.
I'm not into the blueberries, but the steak and the eggs, I'm all here for, man.
Are safe for you and your family to consume. Real food is just being real food. It's just one ingredient. It doesn't need a label. It has nothing to hide. We don't need to have these magnifying glass and black boxes on real food. Real health is built by stepping outside the system and just getting back to the basics.
And she's right about that, because that's the thing, is all of this stuff that we've been eating for 70 years isn't food. It's like, it's not food. It's things and chemicals and components, but it's not food. It ain't never been food. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are on this, because it is a complicated little situation here. I mean, you're talking about one state, a ripple effect, and a lot of change. These regulations will cause a lot of change. Trust me. Even if it starts out that FDA just does recommendations, and like you can see, they've already started moving on ingredient shuffling, which can have its own problems, but I think some change is better than nothing, because good Lord, we need to do something about all of this crap that Americans are putting in their pie holes. And if you like the video, if you could hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. And make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future content. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.